Welcome back to another edition of the KCSN Laboratory, where I am not Kent Swanson, and I am not joined by Maddie Lane. I am joined by the only Craig Stout. But first, as always, as Kent is yelling at me to do, I can hear him in my ear. Shout out to our sponsors, Impossible, Emprise Bank, FDIC. We appreciate you guys as always. Craig, I got one burning question for you here to start.
Love it. Hit me with it.
Craig Russo, how was the parade?
As a let's see here now, 2-week long Pacers fan, the parade was really, really rough for me, even though I was a glue guy for the Thunder. It was really, really good to get to see that. Now, how about those finals? We don't get treated to a really good finals in other sports. This is a football podcast. Traditionally, the Super Bowl has delivered, especially for us, Chiefs fans as of late. But
tough year to talk about that. But yeah,
tough year to talk about that. But largely, it's been pretty good.
Yeah,
but
what was the last stinker of a Super Bowl? I mean, like what the last complete stinker?
Complete stinker?
Where the game wasn't competitive. You know what I mean? Because we've had a lot of finals that have ended so other sports do best of sevens. So if if it doesn't go 7 games, you never have the do or die. If you win in 5 or 6 games, there's just less, I don't know. It just feels like it doesn't build up quite to the same peak. Right. And so with the Super Bowl,
are we ignoring this year?
Yeah, I am for now.
Super Bowl?
I am for now. No, I was saying besides that, when was the last one before that? There just was a stinker. Are we going back to the Seahawks blanking the Broncos?
Yeah, probably. Although
the Broncos came back and got the Broncos came back the next year or 2 years later and got the Panthers.
True. That's true. But I enjoyed that Seattle Broncos Super Bowl plenty. That was just fine. But yeah, usually the Super Bowl delivers. I can't say the same about a lot of other finals. It's really nice when you get 2 very evenly matched teams. It was a really competitive finals. I don't know. I had a really good time watching them this year. So I will take those every time I get them.
Yeah, and getting the Game 7 for the first time since 2016, that was a nice addition to it. And listen, the game played out how it did, losing Tyrese Halliburton there early on in the game when it was still tight. That robbed us of maybe a potentially, I don't want to say greatest of all time, but one of the most fun NBA finals of all time. So we were kind of robbed of that a little bit because of the injury, but it was still a really fun thing to watch. You guys tune into a Chiefs podcast and we're talking, NBA finals here for the first 3 minutes. That's fine.
10 out of 10.
Craig Russo's on here. He was down in Oklahoma City at the parade. He took off the headband to jump on here. And then also the NBA draft is going on. So we already had NBA on the brain coming into the show, but
it's true.
We are here. If you didn't know the NBA draft was on, it comes 3 days after Game 7 of the NBA Finals, and it's on a Wednesday. I know nobody knew it was now. So anyway, I guess it's time to jump into it. I guess I should ask you, how are you doing? How are you actually doing, Craig? How do you feel today?
I'm doing phenomenal, Maddie. I'm getting to talk football with a pal. This is great. This is exactly what my heart needs right now. How about you, buddy? How does non-minivan life feel? I just want to throw that out there. Does it feel different? Do you feel different?
God. So see, this is tricky. I see, I said I was going to say this on here. So hopefully, the wife's listening from the other room here. We went out, we got a truck today. We've lived on a farm for 5 years now. And we have been transporting goats, lumber, trash, pigs in the back of an SUV or a minivan. Right. That has been how we have done stuff. We have finally gone out and gotten a truck. We got one today, not new, just a nice used truck to drive only around here for doing stuff. So, super exciting, super fun. I'm living my best life because I'm finally getting this truck. And my wife looks at me and goes, I don't think you're a truck guy. And I was like, what? And she goes, well, see, here's the thing. And she's like, you don't look like a truck guy. And I'm like, okay, semi-understandable because I'm in here wearing my 4-inch inseam shorts with my Vans as I'm buying a truck.
I was pulling up the picture. Yeah.
Understandable how you can come to this conclusion. I don't care, but understandable. But then she goes and see the guy we're buying it from. He's like, he's got on working pants and working boots. He looks like a truck guy. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'm not wearing truck guy clothes and I'm probably not gonna. I can accept that. My heart can handle that. Then she goes, but even if you were wearing what he was, I still don't think you're a truck guy.
Yeah, well, listen.
She said,
you married her for a reason because she keeps it real, buddy. Like that's what that's about.
Like, she didn't actually say that, but that was like what the inflection in her voice said. So now I just said a crossroads. I had to ask her to take the trash out tonight because I couldn't do it.
Yeah. See, you are setting up all of our commenters right now to contribute to this piling on that you are not a truck guy. Mr. I'm 5'1", not, Matthew looks like a surfer. See, there you go. There you go.
I mean, I guess that's good. What water sports and me don't get along, or wheeled sports. My feet, I'm good at all sports where my feet are planted. You put me on something where my feet aren't in the ground. I don't know. We're in a different world now. But no, I'll take it. I'll take it as a surfer. Maybe I'll just put a surfboard on my truck.
There you go. There you go. And then your wife would believe you more, buddy. Yes.
I don't think so. Okay. We need to move on. We need to move on to lessons learned from the week 4 game against the Los Angeles Chargers, a game in which the big story coming out of this, Rashee Rice gets injured after a pretty bad interception from Patrick Mahomes. He is trying to tackle the intercepting player, who I forget who it was, misses and takes out Rashee Rice's knee. Unfortunately, they lose him for the rest of the year. So offensively, after that point, I think we can kind of say offensively, there's probably not a lot to take away from this game because everything changed on a dime, right? Everything was different because this team was just ramped. We talked about the Falcons game from the week prior earlier on. Everything was starting to trend towards Rashee Rice being the go-to part of this offense, and boom, they lose him right away. So offensively, I don't know if there's a lot to talk about, but I will open the floor to you for your biggest takeaways from this game.
I mean, let's start on the offense just because it'll be pretty quick here. By the way, the intercepting member of the Los Angeles Chargers, Christian Fulton, now Chief.
Oh, no.
Christian Fulton. Yeah, bad things happen when Christian Fulton touches the ball to Rashee Rice. No, it was ugly. Really, really ugly after Rashee Rice went out of this game. Understandably so, because at that point, the Chiefs are 4 weeks into the NFL season. They have lost their projected number 1 receiver in Hollywood Brown in the preseason, and now their projected number 2 receiver in Rashee Rice in week 4. They looked really, really rough. Sky Moore got a ton of run in this game, and Sky Moore did not do much of anything. Had a lot of running. Third down. Yeah, did a lot of running. Had an open third down that he dropped. Xavier Worthy had a big, deep touchdown catch in this game. That was terrific. But the rest of this was largely just, hey, Travis, hey, Noah, please go get open. Like, that was it. They could not rely on this receiving core to do much of anything. There was still some vintage Mahomes. There's a play, I believe it was in the third quarter or early fourth. Mahomes is breaking contain. There's pressure all around him. Breaks the pocket. He's moving to his left. Justin Watson's coming across the field in front of him, and he does the open his hips, across his body, and found Justin Watson on a third down. And I went, oh, holy cow, look, there that is again. Then it disappeared for the rest of the game. It was really, really rough to watch this offense. And frankly, a little bit of a miracle that they got out of this game with a victory after all of that, because they did not look good. And largely, they were able to do this because of the defense. But Maddie, any other offensive points before we move on to the defense?
No, I don't think so. Like I said, I just don't think there's a lot you could take away from what happened on the offensive side. Everything changed on a dime. I thought we were like fully in the switch of the offensive line going over to Wanya Morris at this point. Like in the previous year when he first came in, like it was going okay. Like I don't want to say Morris was out there great, but like he wasn't getting blown off the ball. They were able to functionally run the majority of their offense this game, even with Morris there at left tackle against Khalil Mack a lot of times. So it went okay. The offensive line did an adequate job. It wasn't like they could lean on that to get them out of the situation where they lost Rashee Rice. So offensively, they didn't have a lot going. This was another game where the Chiefs were able to rely on Travis Kelce. Like this was, I don't know if it was earlier in the year. I don't know if they just like absolutely had to, so they did. But Travis Kelce had a solid game in this one. He was able to do enough. He was able to provide like that safety net that was enough offense for them to go ahead and come out and pull through with, 17 points, I believe is what they scored in this one. So,
yeah, 17 points. But he went 7 for 89 on 9 targets. That's ridiculously good. That's terrific, right? I mean, yeah. So, but yeah, the real needle movers were on the defensive side of the football in this game. Chris Jones was a monster in this one. Like I had forgotten, Chris had moments throughout the season. This was one of those that at a certain point he just took over. Justin Herbert, I believe in the third quarter, had 11 QB hits on him. Like he was getting shelled by this Chiefs defensive front and by blitzers. And really, I mean, his performance was not good. He had a 21.6 QBR. Take that for what you will with QBR and everything like that, but did not play particularly well. His best throw came on the touchdown play to Ladd McConkey, who, if Ladd McConkey's not paying attention, is not his best play. He's getting hit and trying to get rid of the ball and just tried to throw it to a space. Ladd McConkey had his eyes in the backfield, sprinting across the back line and sees it and stops on a dime, is able to haul in a ridiculously tough catch. I don't even fault Brian Cook for that. He's running stride for stride with him along the back line there. But that was it. Like, by and large, the rest of this was very difficult for the Los Angeles Chargers to move the ball at all. J.K. Scott punted 6 times in this game. That's silly. That's way too many punts for an offense that, frankly, a lot of people looked at throughout the season and went, hey, they're pretty good this year. They were not good in this game at all. And if you take out the screen passes, which was a microcosm of the entire year watching this game, if Nick Bolton or Chris Jones don't ID the screen pass right off the bat, it's probably going for 13. And that's how they lived. That's what the Chargers kept doing. They kept hitting that. Ladd McConkey had a pretty good game, but the rest of the Chiefs defense was just living in the backfield. The pass rush got home. I thought the safeties actually played pretty well in this game. Even the corners were okay in this game. Linebackers were pretty good outside of Drew Tranquil. Maybe this is a game that he probably would rather forget in large part. But I just came away so impressed by the defensive line, Maddie.
Yeah, I thought, same the general thought. I thought Chris Jones was absolutely dominant in this game. This was, I've said this, like, I think Chris Jones is like teetering on regressing, but not to where he's falling off a cliff. It's just every single week, he can't be that guy. He can't be the guy he was against the Chargers in week 4, week after week after week. Like, circumstances kind of have to be right. And the circumstance for this game was Chargers offensive line wasn't entirely gelling, and he made Zion, their interior offensive lineman, he just absolutely destroyed it over and over and over again. Like, he could not block him. He hasn't been able to block him. His rookie game, his first game against Chris Jones, he actually did a pretty good job. Since then, I think Chris Jones has taken it personally. I don't know what happened that game, but Chris Jones has fantastic games against him. And so this was Chris Jones taking over that game. But I even think Tershawn Wharton playing next to him, I actually thought was a pretty good player in this game, whether it was against the run, providing just like this secondary interior pass rush. And like, Chiefs are going to need someone to step into that role this upcoming year, because every now and then these Wharton games pop. And it's not just that Wharton has an impact, it's how he gets it, right? He gets set up for a one-on-one and he wins quick. It's just boom. He hits one of those lateral sidestep moves, a little swim, and he's in the backfield. And I just don't know if Jerry Tillery or Omar Norman-Law or insert any player are ready to do that quite at the rate that Wharton was last year. But if they are, that's awesome. If not, hey, Wharton was a big part of this. So I thought that was good. Drew Tranquil was rough in coverage, but I actually thought he was pretty physical coming downhill against the run. I thought,
that's fair.
Yeah, I thought this is one of those games where you could tell that I think Tranquil added some weight. And I think there's games where you can tell where he added weight in a bad way, as in he can no longer look like a safety playing linebacker in coverage. And there's games where you can see it in a good way, where like, oh, he can come up here and take on this guard that's trying to pull, or he can beat this offensive lineman's block because he's able to like drop his hips and anchor and dip around them. This one, you saw a little bit of both. Couldn't really cover particularly well, couldn't turn, couldn't run with the range that he had last year. But I thought he was very physical, getting downhill, making some plays behind the line of scrimmage and shooting gaps. So yeah, the defense, the front seven in general, I thought really shut down what the Chargers were wanting to do. And they hadn't quite figured out how they wanted to move the ball through the air. The Chiefs secondary at this time, I think, was still pretty healthy too. So,
it was. Jalen Watson played in this game and had a couple of PBUs. Yeah.
And so they just couldn't find anywhere to move the ball through the air. This was a dominant Chiefs defensive performance. Like, just call it what it is.
It was. Even Felix Anudike-Uzomah had 2 QB hits in this game. Malik Herring had one too. Like, I mean, it just, they got contribution from everyone. This is one of the more complete defensive performances that we saw. And it didn't look that way from the get-go because, I mean, the Chargers came out of the gate. The Chiefs fumbled right off the bat. This was the second Carson Steele fumble, I believe, in as many weeks. And so, like, he got the hook immediately there. Then all of a sudden we started to see a lot more Kareem Hunt. I think this is kind of one of the initiations of some of that. But the Chargers came out of the gate. I believe they went touchdown field goal on their first 2 possessions. Chiefs were in a 10-0 hole and didn't allow a point the rest of the game, including coming up with a stop on 4th and 1 from the 1-yard line against the Chargers when they absolutely needed it. When they were up 17-10, they were just massive. All game long, the Chiefs defense just kept standing up to intense pressure when the offense was really needing help in a game that they lost their best receiver for the year in this one. That you see teams fold all the time in that instance. Chiefs defense stepped up. So it was good to see.
No, it was. And this is also a game too. My final thought here was Felix Anudike-Uzomah. Good game. This is, I think, where he showed some flashes in this game that everybody started to go, oh, maybe it's there. Maybe it's starting to click. Let's play him more. I don't think that carried over all year, but for the purpose of this conversation, this game gave you some of those flashes that you were looking for, right? For what you wanted to see for him. He made some plays versus the run. He had some decent pass rush moves against the Chargers offensive line. So there, if you want a game to fall back on and say, oh, maybe there's a little bit more there, I think this is one you could go tune into and come away with it with a relatively positive outlook on his growth. He only played I think 17-ish snaps. It looks 17 snaps here. So it's not like he played a ton, but he showed some flashes coming out of this one. So that was a good bit. What was your final thought here?
My final thought. I am very glad that this team has Steve Spagnuolo on it because, I mean, there was in the KCSN Discord a little bit of conversation today. Some people are starting to gear up predictions. We no less for us with what we're about to do here. And the Chiefs defense is largely absent from a lot of top 5, top 10 lists. And I made the comment a little earlier today in the Discord. I get it. You look at this defense top to bottom, it's not full of studs. You're not comparing it to like the Houston Texans defense, which isn't as good as the Chiefs defense when push comes to shove, but you get really excited about Will Anderson and Derek Stingley and some of the guys on that team that you're like, oh, damn, I really love some of those pieces. If you're not in love with Chris Jones and Nick Bolton, you're looking at this Chiefs defense and going, yeah, this seems like a pretty middling squad. It's not. It is a top 10, bordering on top 5, maybe top 5 this year defense because of Steve Spagnuolo and Justin Herbert, who is a good quarterback, playing in an offense that is architected around him by a good offensive mind, and Jim Harbaugh as well was in a blender all game long. They had no idea where the pressure was coming from. They had no idea how to beat what Steve Spagnuolo was throwing at him. We see it time and time again. We get kind of into the minutia too often with Spags and trying to figure out how he's manipulated that. And sometimes it's good to just kind of sit back and be like, man, that Steve Spagnuolo guy's really, really damn good. And part of the reason why you get to see performances like this. So that was my big takeaway.
Listen, anytime Craig Russo can get in there some Spags love. We could just do this every week with me just gushing about Spags for an hour. I really don't need an excuse. Well, let's find out. We're going to bring in Tucker D. Franklin. The D stands for Wheel of Games, as he's going to jump on here. He is going to spin us the Wheel of Games so we can figure out what game Craig can jump in on Monday and gush about Steve Spagnuolo.
Tucker, does your shirt say Mizzou Grandpa?
It does say Mizzou Grandpa. It does say Mizzou Grandpa. I also made this one into a Biff Poggi cutoff as well. Because it says Mizzou Grandpa. Okay, I got some bangers on the wheel over here. Sorry, I was trying to understand what is going on in the NBA draft because apparently they do their draft 15 minutes after the final, so the league New Year's not a thing yet. So then all of these are proposed trades. So that so like I'm just so confused. But here we go.
Like the Rockets picked at 10, but the 10 they don't get that pick at all. It's directly the Suns, but they can't do it.
But he's wearing all Rocket stuff, and they're like, this guy was picked by the Rockets, and he actually wasn't. Week 2 versus the fraud goal.
Let's go. That's a game. That's a game right there. That's something.
That was like the last good one on there, I think.
Was it?
Yeah.
Man.
I mean, it depends on what you're looking for.
The divisional
right?
game against the Texans is good. What are you talking about?
You want to watch that offensive performance?
I want to watch that defensive performance and talk about Steve Spagnuolo.
Well, guess what? It's still on the board for next Wednesday, so you have a chance. Tell you what, you're not going to watch the Fraud Goals game because Kent and I will be back on Monday to do our, I guess, throwback deep dive into the Chiefs versus the Fraud Goals and talk about what we learned. But before that, we have the rest of this show to finish out. And before that, we're going to take a quick break before we start ranking some positions.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
I'm BJ Kissel, founder and CEO of KC Sports Network. Emprise Bank has been with us from the beginning. They were our first network partner, and they believed in the vision of what we were building from the start. I can't speak to any other banks or companies and how they operate, but I can tell you from personal experience and based on the growth of the network you're listening to right now, that if you have banking needs, call our friends at Emprise Bank. We've worked with so many great people there over the years, from Vicky and Aggie to Andrea, Lori, Jackie, Deb, and Aaron, and not to mention so many others that not just supported KC Sports Network, but supported our KCSN Foundation as well. But the best thing that I know is that if I have a question or a problem, no matter how dumb the question is, I know who I'm going to call and who I'm going to talk to. And I know that I'm getting an answer from someone that I can trust. And I know that person is there to help us. That's why Emprise Bank has always been and continues to be our partner in Possible. And they can be yours too. You just have to reach out. If you have a banking need, whether it's business or personal, hit me up. I will connect you directly with the same people that have helped us build KCSN. And that's our friends at Emprise Bank.
Folks, there's nothing that beats relaxing on a hot summer day and watching some baseball. And there's no simpler way to get in on the action than by downloading the Pick 6 app from DraftKings. It's crazy simple. Just pick more or less on the stats for 2 or more of your favorite players, and boom, you're in the mix for big cash prizes. And the best part, Pick 6 is available right here in Missouri. Don't miss out on the fun. Don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick 6, and right now, new customers can get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Here's what you got to do. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code KCSN. That's code KCSN for new customers to get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Void where prohibited. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Bonus picks expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Multiple Bass Pro hats on that last ad. I just Tucker, I love it, man. I absolutely love this. Every single week I get to come on here and watch a different ad read for that. It's wonderful, bud.
Listen, I was slacking on my hosting duties here. I was muted. I muted myself coming back in. And then I was thrown off because you and I flipped sides. There was no side scroll bar. Like everything was wonky. So it threw me off, but I was talking. I was just muted. So those watching the video are just going to see my mouth running and nothing happened until Craig filled some dead air. So that was good times.
Yeah. This is what I'm here for, buddy. This is what I'm here for.
Listen, it's June. Okay. We're working out all the kinks. We're in our OTA phase right now. We're trying to figure out what to do. So for the next few weeks now, everybody's ranking their positions, their top 10s, their top 5s, their top 150s, whatever they're doing, they're ranking their players and their positions. We figured, hey, we might talk about the Chiefs, but why don't we do that too? So starting today, we are going to start ranking our top 10s at every positions in the NFL. Today, we're going to do defensive ends and tight ends, but we're going to add a tiny twist. We're going to do our top 10, but then we kind of want to talk about if there is a Chief in the top 10, what do they have to do to climb further? How high can they climb? If there's not a Chief in the top 10, who's closest? Where are they roughly at? Like how far away from breaking into that top 10 are they? And what do they have to do? So there's still going to be a Chiefs slant, but we just want to rank some players. Let's call it what it is. Ranking players is fun. You guys get to yell at us when you disagree. You get to yell.
Sure.
No, nobody ever agrees with us, so I don't know what happens if you do. But if you disagree, you can yell at us. That's fine. Just leave a 5-star review. All right. So let's start defensive ends. How we're going to do this, Craig? Let's start at 10 and work our way to 1, but I'm going to ask you to give me however many names you want to, starting at 10, working your way down, that you would break off into their own tier. If that's 10 names, that's 2 names, whatever it's going to be. So start with your number 10 and work down.
Okay. This is my tier near the bottom of the 10. It's 4 guys here. Starting at number 10, this one may be controversial here, but I really love this. Jared Verse is my number 10. Again, I'm projecting for 2025. This is not based on just 2024. This is Jared Verse. I'm putting him here at number 10. Number 9 is Brian Burns. Number 8 is Max Crosby. And number 7 is Will Anderson out of Houston. We mentioned him earlier there. That is my lower tier. Maddie, thoughts on that? Are you surprised that I went with Jared Verse after just 1 year in the league right now?
I'm not surprised about Verse being at number 10. Spoiler, he's not on my list. He'd probably be 11 or 12. So he was right there for me. He is right just missing the cut. Yeah. He was in contention with who my number 10 is going to be, what I'll get to in a second. So I'm not surprised about that one. The one that actually surprised me is your Max Crosby spot. That it's a little low for me. So I'm intrigued to get into a little Max Crosby.
You are the Max Crosby hater of all of us too. So that really surprises me. Yeah.
So here's the thing too. Max Crosby doesn't ever leave the field, and he's never bad when he's on the field. So when you're playing when you play 700 snaps and you're good for 650 of them, even great for 650, and then fine for 50, and Max Crosby plays 1,000 snaps and he's good for 1,000, he just has a bigger impact from sheer volume.
I get that. I do get that. But last year we started to see it start to take out its toll on it. Again, I'm looking at it through the lens of 2025. I'm just expecting we're going to see another small backslide of Max Crosby here. It's second year in a row. That's still the 8th best defensive end in the league. He's still incredible. He is a top 10 defensive end, no questions asked here. I just project some of these other guys to kind of take up the mantle and carry things a little further.
Okay, so this is my bottom tier. That was the biggest one I wanted to talk about there. Here is my bottom tier. And I got 3 names in my bottom tier. I got Josh Hines Allen, I believe is what his correct name is now, number 10. That's who I put in just ahead of Jared Verse.
He was my 11. Yep.
Okay. So a little bit more, like, just not even consistent, just proven. We know what he's giving. Correct. And this is the thing. Verse, I think, is going to be good, and I think he might get better. But they did so much looping, slanting, and stunting where he got a full head of steam and just got a ear hole of guard. And I'm like, okay, how often is that actually going to play a part? So that was my holdup. Number 9, bingo, Brian Burns as well. I also went Brian Burns at number 9. And then my number 8's actually kind of similar, different body type, but another guy that's not great versus the run, but a really dangerous pass rusher, Trey Hendrickson. I have him coming in at number 8. So I think these tiers, it's my lowest tier here. I would say all these guys are very good. 2 of them I would say are more like specialists, but they're not so bad you have to take them off the field. They are just clearly better at one thing. I guess Hines Allen fits that mold too. He's just better versus
he does. He does. Yeah.
Take them off the field. So that's, I think, how I separated these 3 guys.
I am guessing that Trey Hendrickson and Max Crosby, that you and I are just flipping at this point, based on this comment that you're making there. Trey Hendrickson is on my list a little bit higher here. So, I mean, I think that's just a preference thing. I get it. He is a specialist, and we can address that a little bit. Yeah, we'll address it now. We're talking about it. But my goodness, he's so good at it. I mean, when he kind of, he started so slow in this league, didn't have a lot of production. And then when it clicked for New Orleans, it was outstanding. And so then he gets traded to Cincinnati or signs with Cincinnati. I don't remember if that was a trade or a sign, whatever it was, but goes to Cincinnati and continues to get better. He's a game wrecker. Like, he is a legitimate game wrecker. I don't care if he can't play the run. He is so good at the one thing that he does that, frankly, I mean, back-to-back 17.5 sack seasons, that's outrageous. They should pay the man or not. Please don't pay the man, Fraud Goals. You guys clearly have no idea what you're doing over there. Let him walk. Let him come to Kansas City. He can come hang out over here.
You could. Yeah, he definitely does wreck games. I mean, I guess here's the way I looked at it. I think he wrecks games. I think everybody I have ahead of him, though, also wrecks games, and I think might just give me a little bit more both ways. Now, is he maybe a better technical pass rusher than some of those guys? Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Right? Like, some of the guys, not all of them, but some of them, I think he might be a better technical pass rusher, but I just do think the lack of length paired with not being the best run defender gives me enough pause that, like, hey, there's going to be some games or matchups where, not that you'll have no impact, but the impact might be a little bit lesser than I think some of these other guys ahead of me.
Completely fair.
So we're going to move on. How many tiers are you going to have in your top 10? Are you going to break it up into 3 or 4?
I'm going to have 3.
Okay. We can do, we'll do 3. Give me your next tier down.
My next tier down is actually another 4 guys with 2 guys at the very top here. And I think our 2 guys at the very top are going to be similar. I'm curious. Actually, I've got a pretty good idea who you probably have at number 1, but it's probably the same as me. So here we go. At number 6, I got TJ Watt. Number 5, I got Nick Bosa. Number 4, I've got Trey Hendrickson. And number 3, Aiden Hutchinson.
Oh,
with me putting Aiden Hutchinson that high.
So there's not. Let me read mine real quick. At 7, I have TJ Watt. At 6, I have Aiden Hutchinson. At 5, Will Anderson. And now this one is my, you said you were playing a little bit of projection earlier with Jared Verse. My projection is I think Will Anderson's breaking into like the top tier. I saw what he did against the Chiefs last year, and I understand like the matchup was like, a little bit favorable, but the way he wins to me is just so clean. It's so clear. I can see how that's going to keep going better and better. And then the last person in this tier for me is Max Crosby at number 4. So yes, we flipped Max Crosby and Trey Hendrickson essentially 1 for 1. And then I think we had all generally the same other names. I have Will Anderson a little higher than you, but we have all the other same names, generally speaking there. So no, I don't think I have any questions about where you had guys.
Aiden Hutchinson was so outrageously good to start last year. Like, if there's not an injury here, like I'm projecting past the injury. What he played like 5 games and had like something insane, like 70 pressures in 5 games. Like, it was unbelievable. Like, we forget sometimes that there at the start of that season, Aiden Hutchinson was the defensive player of the year. He was. There was nobody else that was running with him. Now, one of the other guys up this list wasn't healthy at the time. So we'll get to that. But Aiden Hutchinson was outrageously good. I think that he only gets better. He's just so dominant. I felt I debated trimming my tier 1 lower, including him in that top tier, but I didn't think that he'd quite gotten there yet.
Yeah, no, and that's fair. And like, I think for Hutchinson, a little bit of what it comes down to me is he was clearly on the right path, and he was so dominant when he was out there and playing last year. I would like to see him get a little bit better with like his true one-on-one pass set moves. Like, sometimes I feel like he likes to win with that spin move, and if that doesn't hit, some of his wins are a little bit grindier and not so quick. And like, that's not a bad thing. It's just like when we're starting to separate, like the reason I go Will Anderson over Hutchinson in this moment is when Will Anderson's moves hit, I think there's more of them, but he is so quick to transition from here is my upfield speed phase to here is my through you power phase. And it doesn't matter. Bull rush, long arm, inside stick. Like, we are going to hit you with so many different ways transitioning this. And it's just so quick and clean to me. Whereas Hutchinson feels like it grinds a little bit more. I feel like, again, I have Hutchinson 6, 1 spot behind him in the same tier here. This isn't downplaying it. This is just my one separation from there. So I think we're ready for our top tier. I mean, we obviously have the 2 same names there.
I want to hear your number 3 because you didn't tell your number 3 is part of that. I want to hear your number 3 before I reveal my top 2.
Okay. My number 3 is the young Bosa.
Yeah.
I think the 49ers defense as a whole took a step back last year. I think the defensive line had lost so much talent over the years that it was just throwing bodies at Nick Bosa all the time. And, there's just only so much you can do when you get that much stuff thrown at you and your best player on your defense or, your second, but whatever, you're tied for best player. Fred Warner's playing on a broken ankle or whatever it is all year. Like there's only so much you can do. You go back 2 years and watch Bosa. I mean, that guy belongs in this conversation to me when he's healthy. So I'm just saying, hey, I don't think he's going to go the way of his brother and be hurt all the time. So we'll just figure it out. So I still have him clinging on to the back end of my top tier.
And I get that. And I completely understand that Nick Bosa was my number 5. I just look at this and I say, how is he getting help? Where is the help coming from? I think that he's just, it's going to be a lot of the same. And at what point does that break down? Is he able to bust through those double teams a little more regularly? What the case may be. It's just been 2 years of a little bit down from him that put him behind Trey Hendrickson and Aiden Hutchinson. So I think fairly clearly here, our top 2 on this list are the same: Felix Anduki-Uzomah and George Karlaftis. No.
I had Charles Omenihu.
Oh, did you? Okay. Gotcha. No, my number 2, Myles Garrett. My number 1, Micah Parsons. Maddie, you have the same order?
I do. I have them flipped.
Really?
Let's see if I can pull this off. Da 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 da. All right, there we go. So I got them flipped. Hide my tight end board real quick. All right, there we go. I got Myles Garrett there coming in at the top. Then Micah Parsons. The reason that I went with Garrett over Parsons is about 40 pounds. That was it. That's what I said. The difference was, hey, Myles Garrett does the same stuff, but he's 40 pounds heavier. Now, Micah's maybe a little bit more slippery than Garrett is, but again, 40 pounds. So I will take the guy that's 40 pounds heavier right now than Micah Parsons. Now, maybe Garrett does eventually slow down a tick and Micah Parsons can take over that top spot. It's possible. They're 1-2, and there's like a little mini gap between them and Bosa for me. So if you want, I'm not going to be mad for saying Parsons over Garrett here.
I just watched Micah Parsons come into a team at the end of that year that had nothing to play for. Not that Myles Garrett had a ton to play for either. I'm not trying to say that. Micah Parsons, that team had all eyes on it. They're in disarray. They're just full of dysfunction. Nobody wants to play for him. And that guy gave a damn in a way that he played with his hair on fire every single snap. He took it personally. And I mean, some of this is a little bit of versatility, being able to line him up all over the defense, being able to play him in a whole bunch of spots. Me as, a defensive guy, I really like guys that you can Swiss Army knife a little bit, but you could line him up off the edge and he's going to win in a number of different ways. He's going to bend. He's going to be slippery. He's going to win with speed. He's even got the ability to win with power a little bit there. Not to the level of Myles Garrett, who, when he sees a one-on-one, it's over. You can't just ignore that. I just like the way that Micah Parsons can win in so many different ways, with so much different aggression, with so much different, alignments. To me, he is the quintessential guy right now to keep up with. I think that's going to continue into 2025. I think Myles Garrett is going to be right there on his heels. I think these are your 2 defensive players of the year. Again, we're going to be talking about this again, these 2 guys at the end of the year. But yeah, Micah Parsons is my number 1.
Yeah, and I just was to your point with the power thing. Micah Parsons is crazy strong, right? And I don't know if it's a combo of just the leverage that he gets because he can play so low to the ground, and then he does have shorter arms. So once I don't know what it is. I think if you just put them in the weight room and say, hey, Myles Garrett and Micah Parsons, who's stronger, it probably comes out as Garrett. But in terms of playing on the football field, I don't know if there's a massive difference just because of the way Micah Parsons moves, and he's so quick. He is just dumb fast. So yeah, those 2 guys are clearly at the top. I think Nick Bosa is right. He could get back in that conversation again for me, but of those guys, he's probably a little bit more technical than both those guys. He's maybe not quite as freaky of an athlete. Still a freak athlete, but as freaky, but he kind of blends the middle ground of both. So I still have a little hopes for him. But yeah, so there we have it. I top to bottom for you. I got Myles Garrett 1, Micah Parsons 2, Nick Bosa, Max Crosby, Will Anderson, Aiden Hutchinson, TJ Watt, Trey Hendrickson, Brian Burns, and Josh Allen. Craig, do you want to rip your top 10? Then we'll talk about the Chiefs.
Yeah. I've got Micah Parsons, Myles Garrett, Aiden Hutchinson, Trey Hendrickson, Nick Bosa, TJ Watt, Will Anderson, Max Crosby, Brian Burns, and Jared Verse. All right.
So we were pretty close. We were pretty close in lockstep there. Our biggest difference, honestly, was just flopping Trey Hendrickson and Max Crosby. And,
it really was.
I didn't talk to about it real quick. I went Max Crosby higher because he can win in every way. He maybe not isn't elite at winning with power. He's maybe not elite at winning with speed, but he's good and can do everything. And then he's arguably one of the top 3 or 4 run defending defensive ends, and he doesn't come off the field. So it's just like after a while, he just got so many check marks that I had to push him up there. But yeah, we pretty much have all the same guys. So here's the big question: who is the Chiefs' best defensive end?
George Karlaftis.
Where is he at in relation to this list?
Right now. And again, I know we're talking, I'm doing some projection with 2025. So I'm going to take a step away from the projection here and talk about George Karlaftis. I think he's probably just outside the top 20, maybe flirting inside the top 20. There's a lot of really good defensive ends. George Karlaftis is a good defensive end. I don't say, that he's inside the top 20 to say that he's not a good football player. He certainly is. George Karlaftis lacks a trump card that's not hustle. When we go down through this list and we're talking about all these guys and how they win, where they win, the types of things that they do, every single one of these guys that we're talking about has a trump card, has an ability. You're one-on-one, it's over more often than not. Certainly with a Myles Garrett or Micah Parsons, you don't block them one-on-one. You don't. It's over. It's a sack. So you don't have that same reliance on that for George Karlaftis. So that's where I have him right now. Before I get into projection, Maddie, would you like to add anything more to that? Where do you have him ranked? Where would you generally project him?
I probably have him a little bit lower. I probably have him closer to 30, maybe a little bit less. I'm just trying. It's hard without listing out everybody. So I have just some other general list of defensive end rankings, and a lot of the guys I see in the 20s, I think not only are they similar in play, but I think the upside's a little bit higher, right? So when I'm just going through this and I'm looking at a guy like Yaya Diaby, I'm looking at Chop Robinson, I'm looking at Nolan Smith, I'm ripping down some names that if you tell me that everybody's going to progress forward based on the best reps that we've seen of them so far, I feel like all those guys have more room to keep growing. Those guys probably have quicker wins as a pass rusher while not sacrificing a ton as a run defender. And I'm not trying to knock Karlaftis. I think he's very steady, very good run defender, very steady even as an effort pass rusher, as a secondary pass rusher. I just would really like to start seeing wins in one-on-one situations strung together, and we haven't really got that. They come in spurt flashes, so it's there, but they don't seem to be consistent. Even that game against the Texans in the playoffs, it was all versus tight ends or as a free rusher. It's okay, that's great, but when are you going to go beat a tackle that quickly in a game? When are you going to take over a game, even against a terrible tackle? When are you going to take over a game? And I don't know if I see that on the horizon. So for that, I don't know. I might say Charles Omenihu is the Chiefs' best defensive end. Now we're still talking the same range. Yeah, I think I said this when we talked about. I think Omenihu just got more chops as a pass rusher. You want to tell me that those two guys go into a game and they play a 10 out of 10 game? I think Omenihu's game is more impactful coming out of that. If he plays his best game, I think it's more impactful than Karlaftis's. But still, we're looking at late 20s.
It's certainly more splashy. It's certainly more splashy. I definitely agree that we're going to be looking at the box score after a 10 out of 10 Charles Omenihu game and going, oh, wow, 10 out of 10 George Karlaftis game may include a couple of reps where somebody else gets a cleanup tackle for loss or something like that. So there's elements of that. Looking forward here, how can he get up into this list? How can he get closer to this? My number 4 guy, Trey Hendrickson, Maddie's number 8 guy, I believe, Max Crosby or Trey Hendrickson. That's your thing. We keep bringing up Trey Hendrickson when we talk about George Karlaftis because they won a lot of the same ways earlier in their career. They have this kind of steady presence. And it got to a point with Trey where he just figured out, okay, I'm not going to blow by a guy. I know I'm not going to blow by a guy. So I'm going to get really good at hand placement, my technical rush strategy. And all of a sudden it clicked. And now it's a very dominant pass rusher that is repeatable, that isn't reliant on explosion or bend or these other things. Now, all of a sudden it becomes, I can win against anybody. I can win against every single tackle in the league that isn't ready for me to be consistent, note perfect, down in and down out. That is the path for George Karlaftis. And it's there. George Karlaftis has it. Last year, he had 28 QB hits, according to Pro Football Reference. So 28 QB hits. That's pretty good. That is pretty good. Guess how many seasons Trey Hendrickson has more than 28 QB hits, Maddie? Do you know this off the top of your head?
4.
Nope, it's 1, and it was last year. So a 17.5 sack season had less than that. That just means Trey Hendrickson is finishing plays. George Karlaftis hasn't yet. I can see a path for George Karlaftis, especially since he's already working on this. Like we hear every offseason about he's working on hand placement, he's working on technique, he's working on all this stuff. I can see a path forward for George Karlaftis to continue to get that. His QB hits have grown every single year. It was 11 in year 1, 17 year 2, 28 in year 3. And those 28 came on less games. So less snaps, less games, things like that. I see a path for George Karlaftis to get there, but that is how he gets there. His ability to enter this conversation is really single threaded to that one lane. We don't, it's not going to come from anywhere else, but it is there. I can see a path to get there.
It's like that's something that Hendrickson is so good at, is finishing plays. And like it sounds like it's noise. It sounds like it's not luck, but a little bit of luck. And yes, but there's also a skill to it. It's when you disengage from a blocker, how quickly are you transitioning from disengaging to closing to the quarterback? How fast is your switch from I beat your hands, now I'm going to beat your body position and then close. And then when I'm closing, how fast I can do it and stuff like that. And George is still pretty grindy at that. And it's not that he's old. It's not that he can't keep getting better, but I don't know if we've seen a ton of him like show improvements there. Not that he's not getting better with his hands or getting better as a technical pass rusher. It's just even when he still wins, there's a little bit of like, there's fighting through the hip and there's fighting to get his hips turned and there's getting his body pointed to the quarterback or finally around the hips of the blocker. Just take a minute. And so like, yeah, if he can improve that, whether it's through becoming more flexible, whether it's refining his power game and just eventually running through the hip of a blocker, like whatever it is, there is a chance to get better at it, but like that's what I need to see. And then then I can start moving him up into the top 20 and be like, hey, we're on the trajectory, right, to get there. I just got to see that. Right now, George is pretty much just like a power winner, right? He wins, like I said earlier, that Will Anderson's really good attacking the speed path and then transitioning to power whenever he wants. George is kind of like, I'm okay on the speed path, but then it's really how do I transition this to the power part? Sure. And it's just, I think that we need... I just think I need to see a little bit more from him in that regard, but he's young. There's still a chance that it gets there. So I don't want to say he can't. Real quick, I'm going to say, I'm going to make an executive decision without Kent here. We're doing one position per show right now. This is taking us plenty of time. And especially on Wednesdays when Kent's back and there's 3 of us, he might be trying to snap us through it, but it'll take us a minute to go through there with 3 people. So we
saving tight ends for when I'm back since I already have this list?
Yes, okay. I am. I decided I was not going to just throw that work away. Tight ends will be next Wednesday. So Monday we'll do something else. I did want to take some questions though. David O asked, how would you compare Karlaftis to a Gregory Rousseau or a Montez Sweat? And so for me, I would say I'll take Rousseau aspect of this. I think Rousseau has shown what I still think Karlaftis has. I think that he has had games where he's kind of not completely taken over, but made his impact felt over and over again as a pass rusher. He, I think, has the ability to win one-on-ones at a high enough clip that you have to give him active thought as an offensive play caller or as the quarterback. Whereas I don't know if Karlaftis has given us that. So I think Rousseau still has like that step ahead of Karlaftis, but generally speaking, similar player types, like good all around players, good effort, not dominant rushers. I just think Rousseau is a step ahead of him on like that path to getting there.
Yeah, and he's also given up 2 to 3 inches of arm length. Montez Sweat and Greg Rousseau have vines, and that matters when you are trying to play the way that these guys play, where it's a lot more through the tackle, keeping your chest clean, not allowing an offensive tackle to be able to clamp down, lock you up. George just can't dwell where these two guys can. They can lock out, dwell, peek into the backfield, extend, be able to look around. Oh, there's where the play's going, shed and try and get to where he needs to go. George has to move quicker. It has to be, again, like you talked about with Trey Hendrickson, the ability to engage and know, okay, based on how I feel where the offensive tackle is putting his hand on my shoulder right now, I need to chop this down, move to this immediately. He doesn't have time to sit and figure it out. And when you are a power rusher like these guys typically are, or, even a little more technique rushers, having that length and having that ability to afford yourself that time to sort it out matters. And those two guys have that. So yes, I'm with Maddie. I would probably put them just ahead of George. Both of those guys just ahead of George, even though there are reps from George that I look at and I'm like, wow, that's way more technical. That's way better, because that's what he has to do to win. That's where it could kind of blossom into something else. Whereas if those guys figure that sort of stuff out, well, then now all of a sudden we're probably talking about a Montez Sweat or a Gregory Rousseau flirting with the top 10 of our lists as well. So I like that one though.
No, that's good. And like, I think for Montez Sweat, he has all the athletic traits. I don't think he's ever pulled it all the way together.
Never has.
In the technical way, or I don't want to say his effort's bad, but like he doesn't have it's just going to keep going and going and going and going until the play's over that a Karlaftis or even I think Rousseau have. So like while Sweat, like on paper, he should be great. And I think there's enough flashes there. Something just doesn't seem like it's fully settled in for him. And that's what keeps him down in that conversation, despite probably being a little bit more athletically gifted. I had a couple here from Mike. I want to start with this.
Yeah.
He had this, the Chiefs pretty much play all these teams that we have as these top 10. Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah. It sucks to be good. I mean, that's basically what it is. Josh Simmons and Jalen Moore and Jawan Taylor are going to get a baptism this season. So, we're going to be talking about these guys throughout the season. This is not the last time you're hearing us talk about any of these guys, unfortunately.
Got one more question coming in from Alejandro. Where did you have TJ Watt ranked again?
I had TJ Watt at 6.
Okay, I had him at 7. So Alejandro asked, was our Watt placement based on predicting regression or why so low there? For me, because I'll be the lowest on him, a little bit, but also TJ Watt plays from one side of the line of scrimmage, and that guy just pins his ears back and sprints upfield. There is no power track. There is no thought as a run defender. He makes plays versus the run because he's just going, and he's smart. So he picks up on keys and cues and can make plays behind the line of scrimmage, but it's not as if he is engaging the play to make a play versus the run. He is just ears back, going up the arc from the same side every single time. And there's some games like that Falcons game against Kirk Cousins who couldn't move where he just destroyed them. There's other games where teams are like, oh, okay, that's fine. You go do that. You go run your 9-yard takeoffs over and over again. We'll do everything over here or underneath you. So like, it's just, yes, regression, but also I think he's a little bit more limited than the final box score says from him at the end of the years.
I would agree with that. They come in bunches. Like you were saying there, like that Atlanta game where, Kirk Cousins was a sitting duck. We see a lot more of that. He last year had 11.5 sacks. That's his lowest sack total since his rookie year, where he didn't get seriously injured. He played 10 games in 2022. I'm throwing that one out, although he only had 5.5 sacks there, but played 10 games there. This is his lowest sack total since his rookie season. He had 27 QB hits, less than George Karlaftis, I mean, I look at that as a featured rusher, a guy that we look at and say, okay, this guy is truly dominant on the speed track. He absolutely is. His get off is ludicrous. Like, he beats tackles around the corner based on his first 2 or 3 steps immediately. It's just bam, bam, bam. I'm past you. Good luck catching up to me. I don't have the same sort of fear with TJ Watt as I do with some of these other guys that are above him in a one-on-one situation. Chiefs didn't allow a sack to TJ Watt when he played against them late in the year. That's Joe Tooney. And now TJ Watt was ailing and injured, but he's always ailing and injured right now. He's very beat up. I just don't think that he is going to ever reach those upper heights again as a player. I think that we have seen the best of TJ Watt, and we're starting to see the downside of TJ Watt. I thought Cameron Hayward was just as impactful for that defense last year, and Cameron Hayward is what, 45? I don't know. No, he's not quite that old, but I mean, he's very old.
Alex Highsmith on the other side, that's a guy that's in the
well.
15
Correct.
to 20 range of defensive ends. Stephon Tuitt for a stretch early in his career, and now they have Keanu Benton from Wisconsin. Like, these guys aren't as good as TJ Watt, but like,
correct.
That team's put a lot of talent out there.
Yeah, still the best player on that defensive line, but it's a lot more of a game that you have to play with the Steelers front, where you're saying, well, we can't leave Highsmith all the way alone. We can't leave Watt all the way alone. We can't leave Hayward all the way alone. You don't have that same thing with Myles Garrett. You don't have that same thing with Aiden Hutchinson. There are less other great options to kind of rely on. And the fact that TJ Watt has continued to regress, not add more to his, basically his tool belt every year, that tells me I think that we've seen the best of it, and I think we've seen the best of the Steelers defensive line. So that's why I still had him at 6. I still have him as one of the league's best rushers here, but I would not put him above Nick Bosa, who I think can take over games by himself without a whole lot of help. Same with Trey Hendrickson, same with Aiden Hutchinson, and certainly same with Myles Garrett and Micah Parsons there.
Yep. Nope. I agree with all that. I said that was the last one real quick. I'll take this Mike one real quick. Do I think that Trey Hendrickson will take a step back with Sam? No, I don't think offenses paid much attention all to what Sam Hubbard was doing.
No.
I think Trey Hendrickson was getting the same amount of doubles with Sam Hubbard or without. I think Sam Hubbard was Sam Hubbard was like the lowest end of what a George Karlaftis is, right? It's a lot of effort. There's some technical skill. There's going to be chase down stuff, but at no point in time is anyone paying really attention to what he's doing pre-snap. So I don't think that'll have an impact on them. Any difference of opinion?
No.
Let's go. The Wolves took
there.
We're good. We're happy about the Wolves pick. We got our guy. We're feeling great. Sorry, Greg.
I mean, they've got Shamar Stewart and Joseph Osai over there. Like, they're going to have guys that can go out and rush the passer a little bit. Certainly, I like Sam Hubbard plenty, but you feel pretty good about Shamar Stewart if he shows up in the building for Cincinnati there. But same with Trey Hendrickson. So maybe they'll have neither guy, and Joseph Osai is the only guy that they have to rush with. And boy, how sad would you be about that? Maybe BJ Hill would quit and demand a trade to, I don't know, another AFC team like that wears red. I would welcome that.
Yep. All right. That's it. I mean, we got 58 minutes in. We didn't even touch tight end. Oh, buddy, what were you thinking? What are we thinking that you and I were about to talk pass rushers on a show and somehow get in and out of here without that being an entire show?
I figured tight end was going to be about 5 minutes. That's how I thought that this was going to be.
I got some tight end takes. So
I got tight end takes too.
We're saving tight end for next Wednesday. I don't know what Kent and I'll do yet. I'll let him choose. I'll let him choose what position. Quarterback's probably what he's going to choose. Lame. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us here on the KC Laboratory. This is for me, for Craig Stout, for everybody out there, for the Timberwolves making a fantastic pick, Juan Berenger. We will see you guys next week on Monday. Two-way Josh Simmons. He should have been number 10.
Two-way.